Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this webinar on women farmers and sustainable mechanization, improving lives and livelihoods in the Hindu Kush Himalaya. Episode 2, the Bhutan chapter. As you can make out from the title, this is the second of the series of webinar HKH, Hindu Kush Himalayan context-specific webinar that we are hosting. This is jointly hosted by ICIMOD, International Center for Integrated Mountain Development, and FAO. My name is Suman Bisht, and I'm Senior Gender Specialist at ICIMOD, and it is my pleasure to host you today. Our colleagues from ICIMOD and FAO who are producing this webinar for you. Along with me from ICIMOD, we have Barsha, Dago, Udayan, Reyes, Subha and Pratigya. And from FAO, we have Mailing and Flavia who have come together as a team to make this webinar, to produce this webinar, and hope you will have good interaction today. Now, moving on to the webinar, it is my pleasure to inform you all that we have an exciting lineup of expert speakers today. The webinar today is, of course, focused on Bhutan. So it is the Bhutan country context that we are hoping to understand, analyze, and then finally identify some key action areas. The first of the webinar series was focused on the Nepal context and was held on 5th of March 2021. You can get to know more about the Nepal webinar by visiting our website, where you will also find a YouTube link which has all the presentations and video recording of that. We are doing the similar thing today. We are going to record the webinar today and put it up on YouTube, so you could also visit it later to look at more details. The webinar will be a mix of presentations and videos and question answers. And I hope that we will have a very interactive session, even if it is not face-to-face and even if it is virtual, but I think we all have become experts in virtual meetings now. Let me extend a very warm welcome to all the eminent panelists, speakers and participants from the region. We already have almost 97 participants who are listening to the webinar, and we are hoping to have more. Many more have registered, and we hope that they will be able to join us. Now, to begin the program, I would now like to invite Mr. Takayuki Hagiwara, who is the Regional Program Leader, FAO Regional Office for Asia and the Pacific, to deliver his welcome address. Mr. Takayuki has been working as a natural resource management specialist for more than 25 years. He has published a Farmer Field School implementation guide based on his practical experiences in the field. He was also the lead technical officer for the Sustainable Livelihood Development Project in Kenya's Mo Forest Complex, which received FAO's Edward Somo Award. Over to you, Mr. Takayuki.
Hello, everyone, and this is the Bhutan series. Bhutan is a country I always wanted to go, and I never been. I had a very special friend called the Sangay Wanchak. We studied together in US for 2 years, and unfortunately he passed away. We wanted to see each other when he was still in Bhutan, but this become a little bit not possible. So I feel that a little bit sentiment. It's little bit difficult to think about the Bhutan when I lost him. Anyway, welcomes to this webinar, and I'm extremely pleased to welcome you to the opening of this webinar on women farmers and sustainable mechanization, improving lives and the livelihood in the Hindu Kush Himalaya, which FAO is co-organizing with the ICIMOD. This webinar, which will focus on the Bhutan, is a part of the series which aims to create the awareness and action around the current mechanization gaps in the region, with a particular focus on the reducing the drudgery of women farmers through mechanization. As we are all aware, the HKH, Hindu Kush Himalaya, is a very dynamic region, which is a home to about 240 million people. Unfortunately, as in many parts of the world, it is affected by socioeconomic environment challenges such as migration and climate change. This causes negative impacts on the resources and local communities. As we all know, women play a central role in mountain farming, which is characterized by the physically demanding work on a small and rain-fed steep terrain, often threatened by landslide and erosion. They juggle their farming tasks with domestic work and community engagement, which has led to their time poverty and lower productivity, undermining their own well-beings as well as that of their own families. Limited systematic investment in technologies and services and the lack of firm employment opportunities has pushed the farmers, mostly men, into seeking alternative livelihood in urban areas or abroad. As a result, women has been compelled to take on the task formerly done by men with less access to key resources and the training. The feminization of the mountain agriculture has emerged as one of the most pressing issues. And FAO and ICIMOD is well aware that the sustainable agriculture mechanization tailors to specificities of the mountains and the needs of the users, especially women, can play an important role in enhancing labor productivity, reducing the work burden, and the food losses. Access appropriate farm mechanization can reduce drudgery and the time that women farmers spend on farm operations and help them gain the new skills and the knowledge, thus transforming gender relations and reducing inequality. The webinar organized today is a small significant step in direction of addressing the gender gap in access to farm mechanization. Lack of gender perspective often leads to politics and practices that perpetuate unequal access to resources and women's marginalization from development processes. There is urgent need to promote time-saving, women-friendly tools, machines, and technologies to empower women farmers in Bhutan and promote gender equality. And welcome to this webinar, and I hope that you enjoyed. Thank you very much. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Takayuki, for your welcome remarks. You made a very important point that there is an urgent need to reduce gender gap in the agriculture sector, even though women provide the maximum labor in this sector. So with that, we now move on to the opening remarks. It is a great pleasure and honor to invite Honorable Secretary Dasho Rinjin at the Ministry of Agriculture and Forest, the Royal Government of Bhutan, to deliver the opening remarks. Dasho Rinjin is also ICIMOD's regional board member from Bhutan and has always been extremely supportive of all our work. Dasho was previously served as Director General for the Construction Development Board, Ministry of Works and Human Settlement, Bhutan. He was also the Regional Director for Trade and Industry Office and Deputy Secretary for Ministry of Economic Affairs. Dasho was also one of the directors of the Anti-Corruption Commission of Bhutan from 2007 to 2014. And with great pleasure now, I invite Dasho to deliver the opening remarks. Over to you, Dasho.
Thank you. Thank you very much, and a very good afternoon to all of you, to all the participants. First and foremost, I would like to convey the greetings of His Majesty the King, and then also join the people of Bhutan in saying some prayers for the upsurge in the COVID-19 cases in the region. I would like to say that our prayers, our prayers and well wishes are there for all those who may have lost their loved ones in this unprecedented COVID surge that is happening in the region. Also, I'm very happy that I've been invited to this very interesting webinar today, and I would like to thank the ICIMOD and the FAO for organizing this webinar. I think it is timely to talk about women farmers and sustainable mechanization in the HKH region. This webinar is particularly relating to the Bhutan chapter. Among the series of webinars, this is pertaining to Bhutan. So to give you a small perspective on the agriculture and women in agriculture in Bhutan, I think there are so many similarities in terms of the Hindu Kush Himalayan region. And Bhutan, like all other countries in the region, is a very mountainous country. And agriculture is one of the mainstays. Agriculture, in fact, is a key sector in the economy of the country. But at the same time, we also know that agriculture is practiced on very steep and moderate slopes of the mountains. And therefore, subsistence agriculture, which is employing more than half the labor force of the country, dominates the agriculture sector. And if you look at the percentage of women farmers, if you look at the percentage of women who are engaged in agriculture compared to men, the figure that I have in front of me is showing almost about 63%. But while agriculture sector is very important, while agriculture sector plays a very important role in the economy of the country, we also realize that agriculture sector faces many challenges, and these challenges may be common to many of these countries, and many of the participants are also aware of this. These challenges include, I think, water scarcity, fragmented land holding, changing land use, increasing wildlife and human conflict, and inadequate irrigation. I think in developing countries, you also find that the infrastructure for development is very poor. And more seriously, I think we are facing the challenges of climate change and climate-related hazards. Given these challenges to productive and sustainable agriculture in Bhutan, there has been increasing trend of out migration of men from rural to urban areas. And this is also because of the change of work. This is also because of the change of change in the way people live. And I think in the urban areas, the economic opportunities that are being provided also compels men to leave these rural areas for urban areas. And therefore, what we are seeing is agriculture is getting feminized, meaning that there are more women engaged in agriculture as opposed to the traditional trend of both men and women. At the same time, we realize that this has led to labor shortages in the rural areas, impacting women and resulting in high work burden, particularly in the face of limited technology adoption. And this translates into vulnerable livelihoods and high drudgery for women farmers. And this calls for serious thinking on the part of the government, on the part of policymakers, and on the part of the scientists. In Bhutan, the government of Bhutan is committed to developing agriculture sector with the aim to raise the per capita income of the people living in the rural areas and also enhance the self-sufficiency in staple crops and increase the productivity per unit of farm labor and agricultural land. Mountain agriculture is physically demanding and time consuming, but I think we have to look at simple, suitable, and affordable agriculture machinery or agriculture technology that can be adapted to local and particularly mountain conditions, which could potentially enhance labor productivity and reduce work burden and drudgery, therefore making agriculture profitable. For example, the use of power tillers for land preparation can reduce the labor requirement from almost about 90 days per acre to about 20 days per acre. However, the majority of the women farmers continue to have limited access to mechanization, limited access to farming tools and technologies, training opportunities, information, financial credit, and extension services. Efforts have also been made to address this gap through many policy interventions on agriculture mechanization with adequate focus on women. Gender equality is one of the key aspects that has been mainstreamed in the policy and planning process here in Bhutan. And in line with these policies, we have also established the Agriculture Missionary Center in 1983 to enhance the effectiveness and efficiency in Bhutanese farming practices by promoting mechanization in Bhutanese agriculture through the use of appropriate farm machinery equipment and tools. The Department of Agriculture has also brought thousands of acres of land under farm mechanization, and as part of the recently approved, as part of the 12th five-year plan, we have these plans to increase it further in terms of mechanization. So if you look at the terrain, the rugged terrain, and then if you look at the farming community, which is mostly composed of women, the Ministry of Agriculture and Forest is first and foremost focusing on land development, sustainable land management, and then also taking the agriculture technologies or agriculture machinery to the farmers, and more particularly, making these technologies gender friendly, or let's say women friendly. The government has also invested in making agriculture sector resilient to climate changes through a range of climate smart farming technologies to ensure increased productivity even during the incidences of severe drought, erratic rainfall, and new pests and diseases. We have also formed a state-owned corporation, and that is called the Farm Machinery Corporation Limited, a state-owned company which was established for providing various services such as sale and supply of farm machineries and labor-saving tools, repair and maintenance, farm machinery hiring services, and the installation and testing of machinery and agriculture tools to the farmers. Today, the agriculture mechanization level in Bhutan stands at 17.34%. In response to the needs of women farmers, as of 2019, the government has promoted and supplied gender-friendly technologies, and these include mini tillers, maize shellers, small and portable rice, as well as flour mills, smart irrigation technologies, and then sets of drum seeders that have replaced the manual transplanting, which is also mostly done by women here in Bhutan. The government has also been able to supply weeders and support it with off-grid dryers for drying of various crops. These efforts have seen an increase in the small-scale mechanization in mountain agriculture in Bhutan. However, this process is uneven, it's a little bit slow, and it requires further study and research. And therefore, as I mentioned earlier, this webinar, which is being organized and co-hosted by ICIMOD and FAO, is timely, because I think we need to really focus on the lives and livelihood of women in the rural areas. Mountain regions have also relatively less agriculture mechanization due to the challenges of transportation, the rugged terrain, and therefore it becomes difficult for people to transport the machineries and then also apply these technologies in sloping, terraced, rugged terrains. We hope that in the coming years, we will continue to choose, create, and innovate agricultural technologies and farming practices which are appropriate to the Bhutanese farm terrain and ecological conditions. And these efforts will contribute significantly to the national goal of food self-sufficiency, but has also been an instrumental agent in alleviating drudgery in Bhutanese agriculture, particularly for our women farmers. I can see from the agenda that the discussions are going to be very lively, discussions are going to be very interesting, And the number of participants that is reflected on the screen, I'm seeing 122 plus participants. That only shows the interest in this webinar, not so much as in the webinar, but the subject matter of the webinar, which is about women farmers and mechanization. And I hope that you'll gain some knowledge, you'll gain some insights of how we do things here in Bhutan, and how gender has been taken care in terms of mainstreaming the gender in the policy and planning processes and the application of technology in the field. I'm also very happy to know that there are so many eminent speakers, and the presentations are going to be very enriching for all the participants. And therefore, I look forward to the exchange and discussions today during the webinar, and hope it will come forward with further ideas to take our vision of a self-sufficient agriculture further. And I would feel that this is also a platform for all of us to share if there are some new technologies, new innovations that will make the lives of women farmers easier and free of the traditional drudgery of agriculture farming. With this, once again, let me once again thank the ICIMOD and the FAO for inviting me to say a few words on this opening. And I would like to wish the organizers and the participants all the best and fruitful discussions for this webinar. Thank you so much, and back to you.
Thank you so much, Dasho, for your inspiring comments, remarks, and also, for actually giving us the tagline, choose, create, and innovate. Appropriate technology. I think that is something that we hope we will be able to do post the series of webinar. It's very, very important. Now we move on to the presentation section. The way this section is organized, we will have two presentations followed by question answer session, and then again two presentations and question answer session. We won't have question answer session after each presentation given the time we have. Also, as I had pointed out in the beginning, we request, as you listen to the presentations, we request you to put down your questions immediately in the chat box. There is a team sitting here which will be browsing all the questions. We will try and see if our presenters can respond to most of those questions. But if they're not able to respond to them during question answer session, they will definitely respond to you individually in the chat box. So with that, now I invite Madam Pema Wangmo, Agriculture Engineer at Agriculture Machinery Center, for her presentation. Madam Wangmo joined AMC in 2018, and she has since then served as Research Engineer and Monitoring and Evaluation Officer until she was transferred as the Quality and Certification Officer under the Agriculture Machinery Certification Program of AMC. As a research engineer, she carried out research and development activities of the farm mechanization technology in Bhutan. She has a bachelor's degree in agriculture engineering from Sam Higginbotham University of Agriculture Technology and Science, India. Over to you, Madam Pema.
Respected Honorable Chair, Director General of ICIMOD, representatives from ICIMOD and FAO, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, Kuzu Zangpo and very good afternoon. As we begin the second episode of discussion on women farmers, I am deeply honored to represent Agriculture Missionaries Center, the apex farm mechanization body in the country. I am honored to present on key government policies and strategies to promote mechanization among women farmers in Bhutan. Of the population of not more than 750,000, 62.3% still dwells in the rural areas, which means their livelihoods are dependent on agriculture. The mechanization level of the country as of now stands at 17.34%, taking only land preparation into consideration. Our farmers are still at subsistence farming level, mainly due to our land topography and steep terrains. Most of the machines are not feasible, and therefore we have been outsourcing small and feasible machines to suit our land situations, and thereby, by default, the technologies in our country are women-centric. We have also been dependent on grants from the government of Japan and other countries because most of our farmers are marginal and economically underprivileged. Moreover, we have limited credit facilities. Almost 53% of rural households have expressed their concern on farm labor shortage because people, especially men, are moving to urban areas in search of employment. So some of the government policies and strategies to overcome these cited issues are land development by National Soil Service Center and Center for Center Machinery Unit, as machine feasibility is mainly affected by land topography. Agriculture Machinery Center, on the other hand, supports in-stone picking program under the land development program. Credit facilities are also made available to those farmers who wish to own their own machines at lower interest rate. And as an apex farm mechanization body, Machinery Center is mandated to ensure safe, quality, and efficient farm technologies in the country. Agriculture Machinery Center, as a government organization, works hand in hand with the private sectors and corporations to enhance farm mechanization in the country. Although although research and development of technologies are carried out by AMC, technologies are made available to the end users through private sectors and corporations in mass production. Machines are also outsourced by the stakeholders and brought for tests and certifications to Agriculture Machinery Center, whereby they are provided with certificate of compliance as per our national standards and test code. This will ensure safe and efficient machines in the country. Free trainings on farm technologies are provided to all who wish to get trained by AMC. Hiring of grand machines are made available through subsidy by FMCL, where AMC supports the scheme with policy development and guidelines. Some of the gender-friendly technologies for land preparation are power tiller, mini tiller for plowing, bed making, and mulching technologies attached with tractor are also available. Transplanting is one area where women are more concentrated. Therefore, drum seeding technology and transplanter are available to reduce the drudgery in the transplanting. Drum seeding technology is in expansion in southern part of the country. For colder region, it is under research phase. Weeding is also one area where women are more concentrated. It is physically demanding and time consuming. Various studies on different weeders as well as AMC-made random weeder have been carried out. It still remains as a challenge for us in terms of generating weeding technology. As for harvesting, we have power tiller attached digger for potato, ginger, and turmeric. For paddy harvesting, traditionally it was done mostly by women. Now, small portable brush cutter, power ripper, as well as combine harvester through hiring are available in the field. These technologies have not only helped in reducing drudgery but also in timely operations. Although processing were done manually in earlier days, now with the numbers of prominent private firms and dealers, different threshers and millers are made available to the farmers at individual household level. These machines are tested and certified by Agriculture Machinery Center as per the national standard of Bhutan. Coming to issues and constraints, although we are advancing in farm mechanization, we are still challenged with few issues, such as fewer women farmers taking interest in available technologies. This has happened mainly because women are left with disproportionate amount of work and house cares, such as caring for children, elders, etc. They are left less exposed to the available technologies and skills than men. Therefore, there is a need for awareness and training based on the convenience of the women farmers. Number two, farm mechanization has taken place and few farmers own their own machines through credit facilities provided by the government. However, majority of our farmers are still marginal and economically disadvantaged. Therefore, there is a need for more credit facilities as well as continuation of the hiring subsidy. The research and development also need to be enhanced as per the needs of the farmers. Topography and small landfill terraces still plays a role in feasibility of the farm technology in hilly and mountain areas in Bhutan. Although land development is taking place in the country, there is need for intervention to speed up the land development and uh, stone picking program in the country. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam Pema, for a wonderful presentation, and you were well within time. You actually have a couple of more minutes if you would like to use it. But thank you for pointing out some of the challenges, but also some of the solutions that have been generated through AMC. I think your list of challenges at the end was very well captures what the gaps that need to be addressed in this area. Now, if any of the participants have any questions or clarifications for Madam Pema, please put them in the chat box. And I would request Madam Pema to look at the chat box and see if you could respond to some of these questions directly, but we will also take note of them and come back to you at a later stage to respond in person. Thank you so much for your presentation and giving us all the details about what AMC is doing and how it works with private sector and FMCL. As Madam Pema had pointed out, while AMC brings together the technology, it really gets to the farmers through FMCL, which is the Farm Machinery Corporation Limited. And it is a great pleasure to have our next speaker from FMCL, Madam Choki Wangmo, who is a Monitoring and Evaluation Officer at FMCL. She has been executing the company's performance analysis and evaluation since 2017. Her role in the company has been pivotal as her analysis recommendation guides the overall working modality of the company and determines the company's sustainability. She assists and advises the company's long-run plans and investments, and she has a bachelor's degree in commerce and finance from Geru College of Business Studies, Bhutan. So we can see from her experience that she is the best person to really tell us where the gaps are, what has been working well, and what can be done to take this forward. Welcome, Madam Choki Wangmo, and over to you.
Good evening to Honorable Director General of ICIMOD, Honorable Secretary of MOF, and all the attendants in this session. I'm Choki Wangmo, serving as a monitoring and evaluation. Will be presenting on behalf of FMCL, making agriculture missionary accessible to the women, FMCL experience. If I start with a brief introduction of FMCL, it is a SOE under the Ministry of Finance that has started from the year 2016. In overall, the company have 6 mandates, out of which 4 mandates are related to the session. So the first program is the hiring services. It is a services provided to all the farmers at the subsidized rate. These services mainly helps in mitigating the farm labor shortage and to reduce the issues or challenges related to the farm feminization in agriculture sector. And the second one is the sales of farm machineries and implements. So under this activity, it's actually a profit-oriented program. So basically, the company focuses on the purchase of the machine, which is from the certified manufacturer to ensure the quality services. And the third program is the repair and maintenance. So in regard to this activity, it is a services provided to the individual who owns the farm machines, and as well as for the company under the hiring services. And the last one is the fabrication and manufacture. So under this activity, the company tries to reduce the import of spare parts and the machinery by doing some of the research which can be accessible to the women, as well as which are of immediate demand in the market. So in order to make this activity aware to the customers, some of the promotion that the company has been adapting is through social media, like Facebook, Instagram, and we do have an official webpage. Not only that, but the other sources is like Gewok Yerget Soktu and the Dzongkhok Yerget Soktu, which are held at the Dzongkhok level. So aside from that, there is one scheme that is done with the collaboration with the CSI, where they provide the loan in low interest rate. So the next one is the solution of agriculture mechanization provided by FMCL to the women's farmer. So under this one program, that is hiring services act as indirect services to the women. So as these services are provided with the operators and the technician, so that the women don't have to go to the field to operate themselves. And the next one is the reduction of drudgery. So since back in days, farming activities like paddy harvesting, transplanting were mainly carried out by the women manually for the longer period of time. So it's like they form a community and make a plan on a shift basis to work for a particular household. So now, however, with the advancement of farming technology, those activities are now carried out within a day without much effort or labor. And the final one is the accessibility of gender-friendly machines. So in this, over a period of time, with the mechanization of farming activities, the machines which are portable and easy are now made accessible to all the individual, irrespective of genders. So these are the solution of agriculture mechanization. And the next one is the benefit and capacity building in machine, including repair and maintenance services. So as of now, FMCL have benefited around like 48,511 households, the eco coverage of 48,260 under the hiring services. So apart from that, the capacity building that the FMCL provides, it's all in indirect basis in terms of receiving or giving the training. So first one is from the AMC. So they provide a list of training mission to the company, where the operators and technicians are sent for the training. So so far the company have sent 22 females for this training. And next one is the deal made between the suppliers. So upon purchasing, it's a deal between the suppliers and the FMCL. So upon purchasing the huge numbers of farm missions from them, in return the supplier provides the company with a training for that particular mission. So it is done like this: either send their expertise to us, or they invite the employees to their country. So as of now, the company have sent 1 females to the outside for the farm mechanization familiarization, which is of in 2 country, that is in Japan and Thailand. And the another one is a utilization of the resources that the company already have. That is a senior technicians that the company have under the repair and maintenance. They teaches their subordinates. So if we look at the company, we have now 4 female under senior technician for the repair and maintenance, and also for the operation of farm machines. And the final one is the demonstration. So out here, respective employees of the FMCL got for the demonstration at the field. So they fix a date and inform the local community on the events to be carried out by the company on the new farm missions. During the events, they make sure to brief all the operations of missions, as well as they let the women's farmers to test practically to convince them, in order to convince them. So the next slide is about the result and impacts of program promoted by the FMCL. In overall, the impact of FMCL have made on the women's farming method is ease of doing farming. Like transplanter machines can do work for 20 women, and combine can do work for 40 women in harvesting and threshing. So far, we have 827 machines available under hiring services, which is scattered all over the country in order to help the women's farmers. So apart from these services, if I state one example, in terms of sales activities, example like rice milling, it can be operated easily and occupying less spaces, which especially focuses on the women. Thus, in gist, the program that the company have amended help in replacing the manual work by machine and making easy accessibility of advanced farm machines, which are of profitable, which are of portable and easy to be handled to the women. So some of the key challenges and going forward with the solution based on the FMCL experience. The first challenges the company face is the acceptance of new technologies. So due to the traditional mindset, most Bhutanese farmers are in the view that the farm machines are only dealt or operated by the men, even if the portable machines or gender-friendly machines are being introduced. And the second one is the land feasibility. Since the Bhutan geographical area of dramatic landscape that ranges from subtropical plain to steep mountains and valleys, it is difficult for women to implement that particular mission in the fields. And the third one is the shortage of specific machine. This usually occurs during the peak season. This has been a serious issue that the company has been facing every year, especially during the peak season. They demand the multifunctional machines, which are of limited in the company. And the final one is the shortage of operator. So even though some of the farmers or the youths or anyone's that are being trained by the AMC on the mission operation, the company still faces the shortage of operator during the peak season. So keep seeing that all the key challenges, some of the solution or the way forward that the company can bring is initiating vigorous awareness program like sensitization to media, demonstration, focusing not only men but also towards the women, making them aware again and again that new farm machines are all of gender friendly and can be used without much effort in the field. And the second one is having a research and development of machines that are feasible in Bhutan landscape, and that focuses not only in men but also towards the women, as it is them who are also seen in the field. So the third one is mitigation of the shortage of specific machine, which is point number 3. So a proper deployment plan have to be done where the customer and the company should come to one consensus on the acceptance of extension of time during the peak season, or the other way around is investing high on the most demand farm machines, or the another one is exploring more on multifunctional farm machines. For the solution of the fourth challenges, the company have been following this trend of rewarding incentive and bonus to the operators for the past 3 years. So basically, during the peak season, the company collects the data on the highest revenue generation by the individual operators. And at the end of the session, they are rewarded with the bonus or incentive. This method is not only applied for the employees of the employees of the company, but also the seasonal operators. And it also encourages the women seasonal operator to come forward during the peak season. So keeping this solution and way forward for the FM cell as in contributing to the agriculture mechanization to the women's farmer, I conclude my presentation and would like to thank ICIMOD for giving the opportunity to share some experience of FM cell. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam Choki, for your presentation. Very, very interesting again to hear about the work that FMCL is doing. I think it is one of the unique organization which is linked to a machinery center to actually take the machines to the community. So it is like a bridge between the research center and the community, and some very interesting programs and schemes that you have talked about on how to make these machines accessible to the farmers. A lot of questions have come in the chat box. Many questions have come in the chat box. We don't know if we will be able to take all of them, but what we can do is take a few, and I will again request Madam Pema and Madam Choki to kindly look at the chat box after this and try and respond to as many questions as you can. But one of the questions that I can ask to Madam Pema, for example, there was a very interesting question to know when women farmers want to hire or purchase these machines through their credit program, what kind of collateral are they asked to submit? Do they have the collateral? Do they have the buying power to purchase these machines? Or if they're taking it on credit, what is the collateral that they usually put up? If one of you, if Madam Pema, if you could respond to that question.
As for credit facilities, it is provided at lower interest rate by the cottage and small industry bank. It is initiated by the government, mainly focused to the farmers who wish to buy the machineries, especially power tillers, mini tillers. So we don't really have the scheme like it is for women or men. Any farmers who wish to avail the services at right now the interest rate is at 5%. So any farmers, whether be it man or women, the facilities are available to all. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Madam Pema. And as a follow-up question, can I ask, do you have sex disaggregated data in terms of how many men have actually come forward to hire these machines and how many women have come forward to hire these machines through the credit services?
This data FMCL will be able to provide, because they are the most implementers of the hiring services. So grand machines are given in hiring by FMCL, and other machineries are sold by the different private. We have different various prominent private sectors right now. So those machines are sold by the private firm. AMC doesn't really have the disaggregated data on male and female right now.
Okay, thank you, Madam Pema. Can I now ask Madam Choki? There has been some question in terms of capacity building, and there has been a question whether do you have something like a farmer field school to build capacity of the farmers? Or are these, how do you identify farmers for building their capacities for use of machine? Are these only farmers who actually hire the machines? Or are these operators that are identified by you? Can you throw some light on that? Any one of you, Madam Pema or Madam Choki?
Madam, I will answer that capacity building questions. Since AMC is the government entities that who provides free trainings and do the tests and certifications of the farm machineries, so uh, operators and all who wish to get trained in farm machineries are all trained by Agriculture Machinery Center. Those operators are then either taken by FMCL as an operator, or the farmers, individual farmers, they come for the training at the center in Agriculture Machinery Center. So all the trainings are free for all the farmers, whether be it men or women.
But okay. Then there is also a question on maybe Madam Choki can respond to that, is which technology is of highest demand? You are providing a lot of options in terms of machines. Which is the particular machine that is of highest demand among the farmers? And also they would like to know if right now, is your program more demand driven in the sense that farmers are demanding these machines and services from you, or is it more supply driven that the government thinks that these machines can help with the farming and they are available and supplying them, and therefore farmers are encouraged to use it? So is it more demand driven or service driven? Madam Choki?
So to answer this question, it's if I say that the most demand product by the till we have is the rice mill, like mini rice mill and flour mill. These all are demand driven. We don't just directly go with the supply. First, we see the market, then see which machine are of highest demand and which are of fast moving. So based on that, we supply the machine, or we procure the machine and supply to the customer.
And there's also a question on FMCL is how viable is FMCL as a business enterprise? If you have done any cost benefit analysis in terms of, hiring services, all the services that you provide, are you able to break even as a business enterprise?
So if we look at as an individual entity, one program as an individual entity, then it is viable. It can be sustained by itself, since it is like the hiring. If I give an example, the hiring activities, it is based on the subsidized rate. So yes, since like the operators, since the hiring services on subsidized rate, yes, it can be sustained. We have did some cost analysis based on the separate entity, keeping all the activities as separate entity. Hiring services and sales has been a best one, because in terms of sales, we are adding only 15% from the purchase, so that's why it has been a profit orientated for us.
Okay, there has been one more question to say that in many of the remote areas of Bhutan which don't have access to roads, there is very little use of machines. And if those farmers want to reach out to FMCL or AMC to hire some of these machines, how do they do that? How do they reach out to these? How do we make sure that most marginalized farmers in the most remote areas of Bhutan are able to use these services? Can you throw some light on that? Any one of you, Madam Choki? Yeah.
So here out here, like we have so many FMSs scattered around the country. Not only that, we have some focal person to be represented from the company. So they contact the farmers, usually contact them, and we and the FM sale as an organization, they transport the machine to that field, so with the operators and a technician to be in the field for the repair and maintenance as well as the operation. So as an overall, I don't think so there will be a much problem if they reach out to the focal person or the FMSC center.
So is this information available on a website, something that the farmers can reach out? How do they get in touch with you?
Yes, we do have the information and the contact informations of every focal person in the website, so they can directly reach out to that person from that particular location.
Can I request you to kindly put that website in our chat box so all those who are participating in this webinar can actually take note of that, and if they're interested, they can reach out to you?
Yes, sure.
Okay, thank you so much. There is also one interesting question often we have seen in other parts of the world is that when machines are introduced, which make the task easier, often men tend to take over that work. So for example, if harvesting is something that women are mostly involved in, or weeding is something that women are mostly involved in, and a weeder is introduced which makes weeding easier, then men often tend to take over that task. Have you also noticed these kind of changes after introduction of machines? Anyone can respond. And I would request Madam Choki and Madam Pema to keep their videos on because the questions are right now directed to you.
So yes, we see some changes, but however, with that changes, some women are more encouraged to move to come forward. So I see there is a both inequality of changes in coming in both the genders, as well as men and for women also.
Okay, and there's also a follow-up question. I think we will take one or two more questions and we move on to the next session. There is also one interesting question to see whether women farmers are invited to evaluate and give feedback on these machines that are available for hiring, or machines that are used in the field. Are women farmers invited to give feedback on these machines and how they can be, like Dasho said, we need to choose, create, and innovate in order to make them women friendly. So are feedback taken from women farmers?
Whatever trainings or demonstrations or awareness we give, these are mostly done through Agriculture Machinery Center. So when we give the trainings or demonstrations, all the women or men, despite the genders, all are called for their feedbacks. We collect the feedbacks from both men and women, and the technologies, whatever or research or generated, are taken into consideration, taking the feedbacks from both the genders.
Okay, thank you so much. Madam Choki, would you like to add anything to this?
No, ma'am. That's all.
Okay. Also, Madam Pema, there's one question that has come is a lot of the machines that were shown in your presentations were often big machines. And both of you had in your presentations talked about, how the terrain of Bhutan, which is steep slopes and terrace farming, often, these machines are not suitable for this context. So I wanted to know if any kind of, research is being done or development R&D being done to make these machines more appropriate for mountain context.
Yes, Lamam. Especially when it comes to the Agriculture Machinery Center have conducted a study on the feasibility of the machines, especially power tillers and mini tillers. We have taken into consideration the how at what degree these machines will be feasible, and also one technology that we have carried out research, that comprehensive research, is on direct seeding technology. In southern region, the research has been successful. It is going in full expansion, whereas in colder region, it is still under research phase.
Okay, thank you so much. I would also like to, in the chat box, I see that there is some interest in the Renew program. which is also being run in Bhutan. And I would request people who are linked to this program to maybe if they could put their website or any kind of information in the chat box that people can look up later, because I think the Renew program is also involved in some kind of microfinance and provision of mini tillers or power tillers. So I would request you to put some kind of website that people could look up to understand more about this program. But one last question to both of you. I think that there is a very interesting question that has come up is there any investment in trying to develop machines based on renewable energy? So for example, I mean, most of these power tillers, they either run on diesel, but is there any efforts to run them on solar power or things like that, or any kind of renewable energy based machines being introduced in Bhutan so far?
As of now, for power tillers and mini tillers, we haven't carried out the research and development on that. However, for to combat human-wildlife conflict, we are carrying out a research on animal repellent. I think that is taking into consideration the renewable energy.
Okay, Madam Choki, would you like to?
Since the research and development is not under the FMCL, we haven't had such kind of programs.
Okay. And so one last question is, since you are also doing monitoring and evaluation, you did talk about in terms of how much time it reduces, introduction of a machine reduces for farmers. But have you done any kind of monitoring in terms of how it reduces drudgery of women farmers, introduction of a particular machine, and how many women farmers are actually using these machines compared to men? Do we have any kind of data on that? Anyone can answer if such kind of data is available.
I didn't get your question, madam.
Exactly, introduction of these machines reduces drudgery for women farmers. How does it reduce their workload? I know you gave some examples that introducing of a thresher reduces, from 90 days to 20 days of work time. But in terms of how many women are actually using these machines, and have you done analysis for all machines in terms of how it actually helps reduce the work burden for women?
We once carried out a cost analysis survey on paddy cultivations, so taking considerations into the comparative studies on the paddy cultivation in the eastern region between the traditional and mechanization. So we have taken both the feedbacks surveys from the women farmers as well as the men. So we have the data on the cost analysis done.
Okay, Madam Choki, would you like to add anything here?
So as I have said example in my presentation, so what we have seen is that during the paddy cultivation, during the harvesting season, we see that the 20 women are involved in the harvesting. So if we include not only harvesting but also threshing, 40 women are involved in that activity. So since the company have machines that can do both the threshing as well as the harvesting, which is combined and which is of limited machine also. So this has been reducing the workload for the women. So it's a services, they don't have to operate, they just need to give do some payment, and all the work are done by the organization. So I see that the difference from the 40 women are replaced by the one machine.
Okay. But does it also mean, are these women, is it labor exchange or is it that?
Yes, it's a time saving for the women, so they don't have to do the work and they can rather focus in other things. So yes, it's a time saving for them as well as it's an income for benefit for the company also.
Thank you so much to both Madam Pema and Madam Choki for taking out the time to give these presentations and for also answering so many questions. There are actually a lot more questions in the chat box. And I request you or your team members, other members from AMC or FMCL who are actually attending this webinar to look at some of the chat questions and respond to them if they can. I think there is a lot of interest that your work has generated. And once again, thank you very much for being part. And please stay on because we have another section on call for action where we would like your inputs. So with that, we move on to the next round of presentations. Thank you everyone for putting in your chat. Please continue to put your questions in the chat box. We will put all these questions together, and if they're not answered here, we will try and get responses to them from the presenters later, and you'll be able to find them in our website. With that, now we move on to the next two presentations. And for that, I would now like to invite Madam Ugen Chomo, who is the Chief Program Officer at the National Commission for Women and Children, Bhutan. Madam Chomo is an educationist by profession, and her core responsibilities lies with the promotion and protection of women and children in need to care and support through formulation of laws and legislation. Okay, please go ahead.
Honorable DG ICIMOD, the Russia Secretary, Ministry of Agriculture and Forest, esteemed guest, the organizers of ICIMOD and FAO, fellow presenters, good afternoon, everyone. As introduced, I'm Ugen Chomo from National Commission for Women and Children. As displayed on the screen, my presentation would actually focus on the gender assessment that National Commission for Women and Children have actually conducted in 2020. I won't have much of the machinery component, yet the video that I would be showing would actually say a lot of things on the role of women in agriculture. The National Commission for Women and Children initiated a study on gender analysis in three nationally determined contribution NDC priority areas of agriculture, waste and energy to assess the ongoing efforts of the rural government and other stakeholders to achieve the country's vision of carbon neutral, resilient and sustainable development in a gender responsive way. We are committed to both national and international commitments on climate change, and the study aimed towards understanding gender and climate linkages and gender climate action nexus in the three sectors. It identifies gender differentiated impacts and contribution to climate change and its intervention in these sectors. The NDC priority areas, the agriculture, energy and waste sectors were identified for the study given the rapid increase in present and projected emission and gender dimensions in this sector. In Bhutan, around 44% of population depends on agriculture, with the sector employing almost 60% women as compared to more than 34% of the men. The agriculture sector is a prominent greenhouse gas emitters, contributing to 32.4% of the total emission in 2015. Okay, maybe before that we can show the video.
Bhutan being in a very sensitive area, we are impacted more by climate change. And although these have been specifically listed in our national key result areas and also in the global goals of sustainable development goals, for the first time, the National Commission of Women and Children has conducted a survey to see the impact of climate change, especially in relations to gender and how it impacts women.
Ray's, the volume has gone. We can't hear the audio.
Ray's, you seem to be muted. Can you unmute yourself?
Bhutan being in a very
productivity, most times the men tend to migrate out of the community.
미디긴다 마두 바다수 마자리 조아주 세야소 나도 미디루 강가 남섬에 레레니니 두미디루 강가 남섬에 중매.
As it is, women's workload is much higher than the males because of the informal cares. Because of climate change, the workload has further increased. And this is because of the nature of climate change in which there is unpredictable rainfall. There is erratic water supply and many water sources are dry. As a result, women have to go further and take longer time to fetch water. The government, in collaboration with the agriculture sector and with our development partners, also need to look at improved agricultural practices, improved varieties of seeds, and in climate resilient agricultural practices. There are many new varieties of products which have been recently introduced, such as quinoa and round apple, that require less rainfall and also features better prices in the market. So these will definitely help the women in reducing their workload and generating more income for their families.
It is important that we give waste management a greater focus because, I mean, we can also see around us how much it is overtaking the environment, the pristine environment that we have. Even a recent study by NSB also found that women are the main managers of waste at the source and also at the end when we recycle or upcycle waste. It helps them raise their incomes. At the same time, it helps them to reduce the impacts of climate change indirectly.
One of the areas is in energy, especially in relations to cooking and the use of fuel in cooking.
And women are again in the forefront when it comes to this, because when you look at the recent past, there have been a lot of negative impacts on their health and on the health of both women and children within the household, especially when there is use of fuel wood in the household.
Another critical area is the transport sector. And here also, I think there is, in Bhutan, many people tend to believe that they must own a car. And the reason for this is because there is very limited public transport. And again here, the women are impacted more because they tend to travel more in terms of going for shopping, selling their wares, going for zomdus and doing other works.
Okay. The video couldn't be completed, yet doesn't really matter. Anyways, the survey that we conducted learned that majority of the rural male, about 83.77%, and about 68.09 women are aware of climate smart and resilient agriculture initiatives. A higher proportion, the next slide, please. Okay. A higher proportion of male, again, 83, close to 83, then female about 73, have access to climate smart and resilient agriculture initiatives. Then information, training, and inputs to enhance climate-smart agriculture. Access to decision-making on climate-smart agriculture support system is also different at about 25.5% for male and 11.7% for female. Over 90% of the survey respondents, without much gender differences, reported the need of climate-smart agriculture response system, including access to information, training, and appropriate technologies input and decisions making were some of the findings. The study also showed that there is an urgent need to empower and build the leadership of female farmers and to enhance their communication skills so as to strengthen their voices and decision-making initiatives in local governance and farming decision, including those related to climate-smart agriculture, including use of farm machineries. In the policy front, the study found that there is minimal integration of gender issues in agriculture policies and policy intentions which are constant by the lack of proper knowledge and skills such as women-friendly farm machineries. These are some of the findings that I am privileged to be presenting to this forum. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Madam Ugen Chomo. We do have one more final presentation to go. Final presentation, I would like to call upon Madam Roslyn Gurung, Director of Programs, Tarayana Foundation. Over to you, Madam Roslyn.
All right, thank you very much. So, Honorable Director General, ICIMOD, Honorable Secretary, Ministry of Agriculture and Forestry, the Regional Program Lead of FAO, and dear friends, a very good afternoon. I am Roslyn Gurung and I will be presenting on the experience of Tarayana Foundation in working with our rural farmers with special focus on women farmers. So Tarayana Foundation is a civil society organization that facilitates empowerment of vulnerable and remote communities. In working with these grassroots communities, the foundation strives to supplement and complement the government's efforts to build a happy and prosperous Bhutan. One of the ways that the foundation endeavors to achieve this is by facilitating access to opportunities and services for the most disadvantaged and underprivileged sections of the population so that they are not left out of mainstream developmental activities. I think all of us here listening, we are well aware that more than 60% of the Bhutanese population reside in rural villages where they are dependent on subsistence agriculture, including livestock and forestry. If we look at the population of our country, men comprise 52.3% of the population, while women at 47.7% make up the rest. According to the National Labour Force Survey of 2020, 58.8% of women are involved in agricultural activities, fishery and forestry, and contribute significantly to household income through farm and non-farm activities. It is also widely understood that women interact closely with natural resource environment as users of forest products, aromatic and medicinal plants, natural dyes and raw materials for arts and crafts. Also, as managers of home gardens, women are both managers of the biodiversity as well as providers of variety to family meals. Traditionally, there was a very clear division of labor between men and women in agriculture. Women were involved in time-consuming and tedious work such as digging, weeding, and transplanting, whereas men's share of the labor was dependent on physically intensive work such as plowing, collection of firewood, and pruning of trees. However, the trend in the last decade or so has seen lessening role of men in agriculture due to outmigration and their involvement in developmental activities such as construction of houses, roads, and other construction works. This has led to what is widely known as feminization of agriculture and means that women are required to pick up the slack, which is always
not possible due to physical limitations and other factors. As most able-bodied men leave their villages, the ones left behind are mostly women, children, and elderly people. In some cases, neighbors or men from nearby villages are hired for activities requiring physical strength, which is not affordable for most. Use of draft animals is still prevalent in rural villages, but not every farmer has the means to purchase, feed, and keep these. Another factor that hampers advancement of women in agriculture is the lack of decision-making power. While almost half the population follow matrilineal inheritance system and 70% of the land is owned by women, this aspect is undermined by the lack of power women have over decision-making. As a mountainous country with rough terrain, farmers require tools and machines that are suitable for these conditions. In case of women farmers, this issue is compounded by the lack of machines and tools that are appropriate for their size, strength, and capacity. Other factors that also hamper agricultural productivity gains are lack of storage space and preservation methods in case of excess produce, as we saw during the last lockdown. Access to market is an essential need, and the existence of an efficient transportation system to move produce from farm to table could add so much to income generation of farmers as well as save time and resources. Lack of aggregators and proper value chain system is another deterrent in the existence of a healthy and sustainable system that, if nurtured and fostered properly, could lead to employment opportunities as well as fair compensation for farmers and producers. It is also crucial that farmers, and especially women farmers, have access to banking services through microfinance or credit programs, so they are able to purchase suitable tools and machines as well as other services and facilities to fill up the gap left by outmigration of men. At Tarayana, we feel that microfinance is a powerful tool and an essential next step for beneficiaries who have just progressed out of subsistence poverty. Recognizing this need, the Tarayana Microfinance for Rural Development was launched to enable needy farmers access credit in a safe and ethical manner. Tarayana Microfinance values impact over financial gains and prioritizes poor and transient poor segments and provides two microfinance services. The first of which is classic microfinance that provides small loan to existing income generating activity, and the second one called development microfinance that provides larger loan amount to establish new income generating activities. As with any other Tarayana program, a holistic or integrated approach was applied for the microfinance program so as not to miss out on any essential component. Tarayana Microfinance is unique in that it is limited to not only the financial aspect, but aims to enhance the capacity of borrowers for sustainable growth and self-reliance. This is done via the business in a box model, where the foundation's experienced field officers train the beneficiary families and handhold the business to success along with continuous progress monitoring. The borrowers are trained in financial literacy and are required to practice saving habit before availing the loan. This kind of capacity development is required as we are working with people who have not had any formal education in most cases, nor any previous experience with banking or availing credit. Once the credit is availed, the borrower is also provided with handholding support such as business plan development, mentoring and guidance, and market facilitation so that they understand the lay of the land and are not taken advantage of. Apart from supporting women farmers purchase appropriate machines as such as mini power tiller, field rotator, rice mill, maize grinder, etc., which has enabled them to save time and cost, the program also supports women farmer and potential entrepreneurs in starting ginger farms and other enterprises. Apart from appropriate machines and tools, simple technologies such as drip irrigation, greenhouses, and electric fencing can also go a long way in reducing drudgery and enhancing productivity of women farmers. We feel that any issue should be addressed in an integrated or holistic manner. So apart from microfinance, we also feel that from our experience of working with women farmers that they should be active participants in the dialogue and development processes that impact them. Sensitization and education of women farmers play an essential role in this. And to add value to this process, women farmers can be brought on board as citizen researchers so that their experience and responses can be worthy inputs in the feedback loop. Obviously, there is a need to invest in and promote energy and labor-saving technologies for greater efficiency and productivity. Exploration and international linkage, as well as investment in R&D for sourcing, adaptation, and development of such relevant prototypes must be backed and invested in. In some cases, there is a need for end-to-end mechanization for the best efficiency and productivity. We also feel that initiating a chain of economic activities for mechanization, inclusive of repair shops, dealers, importers, and service providers, can result in lessening of logistical difficulties, enhance local economy and capacity, and generate employment opportunities. And lastly, we must not forget our blacksmiths in our rural villages, who for generations have been the sole producers and suppliers for agricultural tools suited to our terrain. Their experience and skills can be brought in the fold for welding of indigenous and traditional knowledge with modern technology for the most effective results. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Madam Rosaline Gurung. Apologies to everyone. My internet went off for a few seconds, but I'm back now. And thank you, Pratigya, for taking over from me. Both the presentations, I think we had kept that keeping in mind that they're bringing a very different dimension to what was presented in the earlier session. Madam Ogaeng Chomo pointed out, as Dasho had mentioned in the beginning, that agriculture in Bhutan is facing an additional challenge from climate change. And so it is important for us to know that given this new challenge of climate change, how prepared farmers are in terms of climate smart technologies, tools and technologies to adapt to these changes and to these climate related disasters. And her presentation had pointed out how fewer women actually are aware of climate smart agriculture and technologies, and there is a work that needs to be done. So when we are looking at farm mechanization, we also need to look at farm mechanization from the additional perspective of climate change. And of course, Madam Rosaline Gurung had pointed out the role that microfinance can play in helping women access tools and technologies. So it's not just credit services provided by government, but also development programs that are running microcredit can also link it to provision of appropriate farm mechanization. And these are the kind of programs that need to be supported if we want to reach out to more and more women farmers with appropriate technologies. So with that, I would like to thank both our presenters and once again open up the discussion, the question answer session. There are some interesting questions that I have been able to take note of. And I think one of the questions addressed to Madam Ogaeng is, we talked about climate related disasters, and we do have, every country has a disaster risk management plan, but are there disaster risk management practices that are linked to farm management as well? So for example, if a climate related disaster strikes, how do we ensure that our farms are protected from these disasters? Are there any agriculture smart practices that are related to that? Madam Ogaeng, can you
Yes.
come on?
In fact, my colleagues from the Ministry of Agriculture would have better answers to this than me, but I will try and actually answer to it. We have a lot of awareness and sensitization on the disaster and how it impacts not only on individual health and hazards, but also on the farm. Therefore, I think the Minister of Agriculture has a lot of provisions put in place during the times of disaster, such as the terrace farming, use of smaller machineries, and also some form of financing to cope up with the disaster. And also, if people lose their crops to rain and hailstone and storm, there are also provisions whereby the government actually pays some compensation on those. These are some of the things that I'm aware of.
Okay, and is there anybody else from the ministry or who may be attending this webinar would like to respond to that? They can just raise their hand, and we can see if we can unmute them. So there is also a query whether they can have access to NCWC study on gender and climate. How can people access the study from which you presented the findings, Madam, again?
It's been uploaded in our link. Can I share the link?
Yes, please. Can you share the link in the chat box? That would be great. Then there is also a generic question on, what all do we include in climate smart agriculture? Is there a policy on climate smart agriculture by the government, and what all is included in that, and whether Bhutan is a zero carbon emission region?
I'm sure most of you will be aware that Bhutan is working towards remaining carbon neutral, and we have a lot of interventions to remain as carbon neutral. Therefore, we are committed to it in different, both in the international and in national commitment. We have the National Environment Commission policy that has a huge component on how lot of strategies put in place where that Bhutan should remain carbon neutral or below zero carbon. So and also the gender equality policy also has some component on how we should be aware of the gender climate change of climate and how the carbon the status of carbon neutral should actually maintain. So these things are there, and one of the things that the study also recommended, and the Minister of Agriculture has already put in a lot of things in place, are like I think the earlier presenters have presented that women have women-friendly machineries. Like, for example, we have a lot of power tillers being supplied to all the 205 blocks, but none of them was so very friendly to women. But now there is initiative from Ministry of Agriculture to actually they have started actually supplying women-friendly power tillers where women can easily use those, because a lot of the women are with the agriculture occupation, and a lot of men also, like many presenters also mentioned that our men actually migrate for other incomes because they also lose a lot of their crops to wild animals. So the women-friendly agriculture machineries. Then there's also a lot of problem with water shortage, and the irrigation has to be women friendly. Those are some of the recommendations, and I'm sure Ministry of Agriculture already has some of those. And we also lose a lot of our crops to wildlife. um, uh, Somewhere some presenters also mentioned about having fencing, power fencing, where electric fencing, I mean, where these actually protects the crops, and these are some of the interventions that has already been put in place. And one issue again is also the pest. We lose a lot of crops to pest, and using of women farmers being trained on proper use of pesticides are also some of the recommendations that we have in our studies.
Thank you, Madam, again. Madam Rosaline, your video is off. We can't see you online. Are you there?
I'm here, sorry. I'm
Okay.
here.
I can see that a lot of questions are actually being responded to in the chat. I see that Dasho has also responded about this question, Bhutan being zero carbon emission. You can see the response there. I see Mevanji has also responded to the question on how some of the crops have disappeared due to due to climate change. So a lot of information actually coming in the chat box. I request everyone to also keep an eye on the chat box. But there is also an interesting question, which, I would like to put to the panelists, and somebody has asked that while we are promoting farm mechanization, we are promoting machines which are mostly run on diesel. And at the same time, we are also talking about reducing climate emissions. And so has any study being done or any policy, is this an aspect that has been looked into? How do we, how do we address this challenge that on the one hand, Bhutan wants to be almost zero carbon emission region and is working towards it. It's setting an example towards it. But at the same time, if we introduce more and more farm machines that are run on diesel, which emit these gases, how do we come to terms with that? If anyone would like to address that.
Suman, maybe I can come in here.
Yes, please, Dasha. Yes, please, go ahead.
Yes.
And if you can put on
Yeah.
your camera as well, yeah, that would be great.
Okay, I had to step in here as
Yes.
this is a very interesting area of study that we need to take.
Yes.
Perhaps we do not have the empirical data on it just now, but you see, if there are no power tillers and machineries operated through use of diesel and petrol, etc., then the alternative is use of draft power, use of animals. And we know that the one of the main sources of greenhouse gas is agriculture, and within agriculture it is livestock. So
Right.
basically, we are replacing many, heads of cattle, many heads of bulls and oxen with, power tillers and tractors and, machinery. So if you do an empirical study, of course, it would be very interesting to get the data, but I doubt that we have done such a study as yet. But this is something that we should take it up. Thank you. Just my theory on this.
No, thank you so much for bringing that out. I think it's a very interesting, there are lots of checks and balances, and it raises, there is no simple solution. So while it's easier for us to say that introduction of more machines based on petrol and gases may lead to more gas emissions, but at the same time replacing them with animals also has a cost in terms of carbon emission. And one of the areas that we need to explore, and then we hope that in one of the following webinars, we will be able to talk about is really, farm machinery based on renewable energy. Can we really find farm machinery based on renewable energy and promote these through our programs? I think that's the next big question that we need to talk about. And I know Mewang is here from ICIMOD, who is looking after the renewable energy program. And I think that is somewhere we need to sort of have more discussion around that. So thank you so much for stepping in there, Dasho. And I think with that, we come to the end of the second session also. A lot of interesting questions were generated, a lot of discussion, I think a lot of things to think about. But what we are going to do now is start a section called Call for Action. Now, this is something that we want to, sorry, Chanda, thanks for pointing out that that was Dr. Prema and not Dasho for stepping in to respond. Okay. So we have now come to the section called Call for Action. We are almost towards the end of the webinar. And what we need to do is, based on the recommendations, the challenges and the gaps that have been identified by different presenters and on the studies that we have done, there is a way forward that we have identified, the actions that can be taken to reduce the gender gap that Dasha talked about in the beginning, and how can we outscale and upscale farm mechanization among women farmers. We had also run a Q&A with the people who had registered with us, and we had asked them to give ideas in terms of what can be done to promote farm mechanization among women farmers, or promote access to farm mechanization among women farmers in Bhutan. And we have come up with 6 key areas of action. Subha, can I request you to share the slides? Yes. So one of the things that we constantly heard from our presenters is that most of the machines that are being used in Bhutan right now are mostly imported. Some of them have been created in AMC, but most of these machines are still heavy. And while they are very useful in the plain areas, they are not so suitable for the mountain context. We had also talked about how not all machines may be suitable for women as well. And so there is an urgent need to talk about adapting, sourcing, or investing in research and development of customized machines, equipments, and tools that respond to the needs of women farmers in the mountains. So the operative word here is not just women farmers, but also the mountain context, and have the potential to reduce their drudgery. So this is one key action area that we need to focus on going forward. But here in the R&D, I would also like to add that we also need to, Subha, can you go back? Is to talk about technologies that are not just women friendly and mountain specific, but also based on renewable energy. I think that's the next thing we need to add to this research and development. So going forward, so this is one action area that we would like to, we think it needs to be done. Second, a lot of the presenters, actually the first two presenters, also talked about how there is a, hesitancy to take up these farm machineries because there is lack of awareness, do not have the skills and capacity building, and the presenters had also offered it that we need to raise awareness about these farm machines. So there's the second action point that we would like to propose is strengthen the capacities of the extension services on information and knowledge sharing to reach out to women on available tools and machines. So we need to raise their awareness, we need to show them how it can be beneficial to them, and any challenges related to that. Third point. Of course, the third was that even if these machines are available, the problem is that women farmers are not able to access it, and therefore we need to continue to provide subsidies. We heard excellent programs in terms of credit and hiring that is being run by the government, but we need to take this forward. We need to have, provide subsidies and access to collateral-free loans, maybe linked to microfinance that Tarayana Foundation talked about, and cooperatives to smallholder women farmers for acquiring machines, equipments, and tools. So this is the third action area that we would like to propose. Fourth, invest in building capacities of women farmers in operating, repairing, and maintaining these machines, and capacities in business and management skills for providing mechanization services in their communities. So this is again something that we talked about, is it's not just enough to supply machines, but we actually need to build small businesses around it. And so when we are building their capacities in operating and in repairing and in maintaining, which FMCL is doing, but it really needs to be outscaled to a larger audience. Next point. If we really want these machines to be available to the most marginalized and the remotest areas, we need to actually support the value addition and certification of. So one of the ways in which we can encourage more farmers to take this, but also raise awareness among the population, is to say that the produce that comes out of the farm, if we can certify them that these produce have been built, are the result of farm mechanization, which not only reduces drudgery, but adds value to it. So we support the value addition and certification of goods produced by women with the support of mechanization, so that the farmers can actually get a better price out of it. The last point, the next point. Facilitate the development of small, medium businesses on the provision of mechanization services for and by women farmers. So we cannot depend just on FMCL to reach out to all the farmers in Bhutan. We need to set up small businesses, chain of economic activities, for example, repair shops, dealers, importers, service providers around farm mechanization, which can then help take these machines to all the women farmers. I think that's the last point, right, Subha? Yes. So these are the 6 points, 6 action areas that we have identified based on the presentations and on the chat exchanges that we have been part of. And what we would really like now all our audience to do is prioritize some of these action areas through our Slido program. So I would invite Reyes to step in and explain to the audience what Slido is. So basically, these are the 6 action areas, and we would like you to prioritize which do you think is the most important one that must be implemented in Bhutan. So the top, from 1 to 6. So Reyes, over to you.
Thank you, Sumanji. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are joining us from. I am Reyes, and I'm here to moderate the Slido session. So as you can see the screen, please go to slido.com and enter the code woman farmer, or you can also join through by scanning the QR code given on the screen. So we request everyone to vote and rank your inputs according to the priority. You'll have 6 inputs on your screen shortly. So you need to rank these 6 priorities according to which one you think is your first priority, and then gradually going by the last one. One vote has already come up. So we can see more than 100 participants in the meeting. I request everyone to give your inputs. So only 3 votes so far now. So most of you think that adapting and resourcing and investing in research and development of customized machine is the top priority. And then the second one is strengthening the capacities of the extinction services knowledge sharing. The votes are gradually increasing. So we have now reached 22 votes. Still, most of the participants think that investing in research and development of customized machine should be the top priority for promoting mechanization among women farmers. Most of you have not given priority to facilitating the development. Okay, so that's just gone up.
Well, there's an interesting question on what we will do with the result. So at the end of each webinar, we are coming up with a call for action. And once we have the regional webinar, we are inviting, we hope to work with the ministries to see how some of these call for actions can be taken up. This is also a call for all development organizations to prioritize to support the government in the work that they are doing. So the first step is to identify what is needed to fill this gap, and then how programs can be developed around these to really help take this forward. Maybe we wait for a few seconds more, and then we can share the final results. Okay, maybe a couple of more seconds, and then we move on. Can we show, people can continue to vote, right? Well, we are hoping that a lot of the people who are attending this webinar are people who have been working with women farmers, with communities, are part of the development sector, and are able to bring the experiences and the voices of the women farmers in this platform. But that's a very good suggestion that we also need to ask women farmers what they need, and maybe the next thing for us to do is we need to validate these call for action with the women farmers in our communities to say, okay, whether it matches with their needs or not. Yeah, I think Reyes, can we share the final? I think some people still manage to vote.
No, actually, only 75 votes so far.
Okay. No, I can see in the chat that some people who were not able to vote have managed to vote. Okay, I think that's a fairly good number, Raise. I think we can people still continue to vote?
Yeah, they can. They can. So I'll
They
just unshare my screen now. Yeah.
So, okay, what I would also request the participants, these are the, most of you, I think the maximum number of votes is that we need to continue to invest in research and development of really context-specific farm technologies, technologies that are not just suitable for women, but also for mountain context and maybe based on renewable energy. That is something that has been of the top priority. Race, can we see the other options that have been the other action areas that have been selected? The next is really in investing in building capacities of women farmers in not just operating, but also repairing and maintaining these machines. And that is one of the points that is often left out by programs providing these machines. Often it is a one-time program of making these machines accessible and not taking it forward. And the third is, of course, raising awareness, building capacities of extension services to actually provide knowledge on these machines. And fourth is subsidies and access to collateral-free loans. So these are ranked in priority. And what I would really like now to do is quickly ask our four presenters, anyone, to come in and sort of give their feedback on how do they think this can be taken forward. Madam Pema, Madam Choki, Madam Ugain, if you're here, Madam Rosaline, if you could quickly come in and give your feedback on how this can be taken forward. And I would also like the participants in the chat box, if they could type any other action area that we may have missed out. I think somebody was suggesting that they would like to add to this list. And if you think that there is more that can be added, please go ahead and add it here. This will be very useful for us in terms of guiding our next step forward.
I would like to comment on the second point, invest in building capacity of women farmers and operator machines. I think this is very critical. It's not sufficient really to put just a machine there. Once it's broken in the remote areas, if they are not trained on repairing, the machine would just remain there and won't serve any purpose. Therefore, some skills of maintaining the machine, how to operate, and when there's breakdown, a small minor repairing skills has to be there with the women. Therefore, training on this would be really, really important. That's what I feel personally.
Thank you, Madam, again.
If
Yes.
I may, I think I'd like to speak on the first point, which is adapt, source, or invest in R&D of customized machines.
Can you please see your camera so we can also see you?
All right, okay, fine. So I just wanted to add a little bit on the first point of adapting, sourcing, or investing in R&D of customized machines. And I know this has been an ongoing process here in the country for the relevant authority. But in our experience, working with the local colleges of science and technology has been very fruitful in bringing out small-scale technologies that will be applicable in rural communities and which can then be tested, and if found successful, can be scaled to benefit more farmers and more communities. So I think collaboration with local institutions of science and technology is also very important. And regarding building of capacity of women farmers and operating the machines, also very important, because while certain machines were brought in to ease drudgery for women, we have seen that once machines are there in place, men sort of like step in and take over the entire operation. So I think there is a need to build a capacity of women farmers and give them the confidence and the skills to take on these necessary tasks wherever possible. And on the ranking, I would actually think that providing subsidies and access to collateral loans would be third, mainly because in Tarana's experience, we work with the most marginalized and most vulnerable of communities, and they are still like living on subsistence farming or have just stepped out of that. So they need all the help that can be provided to them to sort of like, make decisions for themselves and avail all the necessary services and facilities. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Anybody from AMC? Madam Pema, would you like to come in? I see a comment by you or by your colleague.
AMC Agriculture Machinery Centers, so capacity buildings have been ongoing by Agriculture Machinery Center. So usually the trainings are given both for men and women despite their gender, but most of the women, they show less interest because they are mostly engaged at their household level. So we really need to scale up on the trainings as per the convenience of the women back at their home.
I think that's a very good point that you've pointed out. Thank you for pointing that out. And also what I would like to request both AMC and FMCL, if it is possible, to generate more sex disaggregated, gender disaggregated data. We would really like to know, who is taking credit, whether it is, even if the machine is going to the household, but who is really coming forward to take the machines, to hire the machines, who is learning to operate these. I think this will really help us to tell us where the gaps are and what needs to be done in order to involve more and more women in this process. That would really be helpful. I think with that, we come to the end of the webinar. Thank you everyone for being so patient and listening through the entire webinar. I would now like to invite our Director General, Dr. Pema Jarambu, to come and give the closing remarks. Dr. Pema has been a minister, opposition leader, and member of the parliament for Bhutan. In these roles, he has contributed to the nation's ambitious climate goals. He has also developed Bhutan's plan to become the world's first fully organic nation as the Minister of Agriculture and Forest in 2012. His experience spans public financing for environmental sustainability, enactment of legislation focusing on environmental stewardship, conservation and climate change mitigation, and strategic programmatic visioning, planning, implementation, and evaluation. Dr. Pema, over to you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Suman Bish, and congratulations for conducting a very lively webinar. I think our speakers, particularly Pema and Chiki, had to really cope up with the rapid fire questions that you put forward to them, and it was really very lively. I would like to thank Dasho for your opening remarks and for setting the scene. I think what you have mentioned, that more and more the rural areas are becoming more feminine, and also I would aid graying of the rural areas, because elderly people are also left behind, while the youth mostly may move out to towns or outside the country. So this is a scenario that we are probably observing across the Hindu Kush Himalayas. I'm also very grateful to Mr. Takayuki Hagiwara and also his sentiments expressed in memory of late Dr. Sangi Wonchu. They say that in the world, everyone knows everybody through a fifth person, and I think that is very true. Dr. Sange and I studied in Zurich together, so we have something in common. So I also share the feelings that you expressed for him. Today's webinar, I think it is very appropriate that we have a lineup. We had a lineup of speakers with even the right names. With Pema Wangmo, and Cheki Wangmo to start with. Wangmo is associated with power, so female power. I would translate it that way. And very good presentations highlighting the challenges, the issues that we are facing, and also coming up with solutions. Now I would say that I was also personally involved with many of these developments, and I worked very closely with AMC, and recently, before I came to ICIMOD, I had the experience of working with FMCL. In fact, they came to help me on a new farm that I was trying to start up. It's called the Woktang Organic Wonders. Wow. And it is probably the biggest farm in the country that the ministry is supporting. And through the FMCL's Missionaries, we have been able to bring close to 50 acres of land under cultivation last year, and we are continuing this year. So it is having a big impact. Now, coming to today's topic, let us see that women in Bhutan were actually very much engaged and involved in farming, and were contributing equally to the farming task, be it plowing, digging, harvesting, or carrying manure to the field. So in fact, they have been sharing all the physical tasks. And mechanization is also not new to them. When tractors came in, of course, I come from Bhutan, so I know also how the mechanization started there. When tractors came in, of course, there were very few women or hardly any women taking up driving tractors. But when power tillers came in, I remember that women were actually more, involved with operating power tillers. There was a time when, the Agriculture Machinery Center was supported by the government of Japan through the KR2 program. One ambassador came to visit Bhutan to review the farm mechanization program, and then we went on a field trip to Bhutan. So the next day we went to visit the fields where the tractors, the power tillers were operating. And these were not mini power tillers, these were standard power tillers. And wherever we looked, we saw women actually operating power tillers on the right side of the road, left side of the road. So the ambassador was so impressed that immediately after his return, he increased the contribution, the grant to Bhutan, from 200 million yen worth to 400 million yen worth. That is women's power. And I think that goes to say a lot, about how women were involved in farming. Having said that, I fully agree with the need to go further. We have come a long way. We need to go further. And I also would like to sort of a little bit, disagree with the statement that we are making, that when women are able to operate a machine, or when they have access to a machine, then the man comes and take over. I think that's a good thing. That's positive. If the man comes and operates the machine and works on the farm and relieves the women for other work such as childcare or other businesses, then I think this is a positive thing, and we should not necessarily view it as a negative development. Whereas the objective should be where women are involved as far as possible. If we can reduce the drudgery, if we can save time, reduce the time spent on farming through provision of appropriate machineries, affordable machineries, and machineries that are terrain friendly, women friendly, I think that is the objective. And we should not look at really going to the extent of segregating the division of tasks. That would actually be counterproductive in my view. But I'm sure you have your own rationale. Ugen's presentation again very interesting on how the role of women, particularly in relation to adaptation to climate change. This is something that we need to also do more studies. Now, in terms of appropriate technology, Rosalind, I also pointed out, I think from your presentation, I think it was in the chat box that with the use of machinery and equipment, we probably might be increasing the fossil fuel use and emission of carbon. Well, it may be true, but as I mentioned, there are ways and means, I think, to look at that. Different ways of looking at that. One is, do we still continue with manual labor? Do we still continue with using bullocks for plowing, or is there a better alternative? Now, one example that we can also look at renewable energy without using fossil fuel. I think some have already mentioned there the use of electricity, powered engines, and so on. The other is again, learning from the past. With the Agriculture Machinery Center, we developed, the traditional water mills. Now, for some time, in the past 10, 12, 15 years, many traditional water mills have been replaced by, diesel-powered engines, or, petrol-powered engines, and so on. So we decided that we should go back to the water mill, but improve the efficiency of the water flour mills by incorporating, small, adjustment under the grinding stone and strengthening the power of the water flow by channeling the water through GI pipes, not GI pipes, through rubber pipes rather than open drain. So with a little bit of modification, we are able to bring that back, the traditional technology using water mill back. And now in Bhutan, I think more than 25 or so water mills are back in operation. So I think there are alternatives. Now ICIMOD is also promoting what is called the hydraulic ramp for pumping water for irrigation. And that doesn't use any electric energy or solar energy or diesel energy. It is purely operated on gravity. So there are alternatives, and we need to invest more time in research and development of alternative technologies and so on. Now, the recommendations that have come up from all these studies are very valid. I think the most important thing is increased access to appropriate technologies, and of course, to make it affordable, increase access to microcredit, and then more research and development. Now, in addition to that, I would like to challenge my FAO colleagues and ICIMOD colleagues, and of course, our government's concern to perhaps next year look at organizing regional expo on appropriate farm machinery and equipment for the mountains. So that could bring together the available technologies from the region and see, whether they could be, used across, this mountainous terrain in different countries. So that would be one area. The other is the need to develop a training course on farm machinery operation and their maintenance, perhaps linked with one of the VTIs or the technical training institutes and so on. And then I would also like to mention here that we probably need to develop a catalog of available farm machinery and equipment that are suitable for mountain terrain, that are women-friendly, gender-friendly, if you like, and develop simple guidelines for their operation and so on. Now, while Ugen is here, Madam Ugen Somo, next year, my colleagues from the gender team, including Dr. Suman Bish and others, are planning to organize with you the Bhutan Plus 10 event. So we would like to focus on women and climate in the mountains, the mountain women and climate, whatever. So there, I think one of the areas could be how we can reduce the drudgery of farm labor on women and so on. So we can look at all those things. So this is just by way of information and to seek your full support for that. So with these words, I would like to thank all of you, excellent speakers, and also the questions that we got on the chat box. I think they're all very relevant, and my colleagues from FAO, I'm sure would have taken note. And once again, I would like to thank everyone. Thank you, Dashu, for gracing this occasion, and thank you, Suman, for the very lively webinar. Tash Dele Kadiche, Namaste. Thank you. Over to you, Suman.
Thank you so much, Dr. Pema, for your closing remarks. Some excellent ideas. I think the regional expo is an excellent idea, very exciting for us. And if unfortunately, if the situation continues as it is, we can even think of organizing a virtual expo. I think it'll really challenge our KMC team, both FAO and ICIMOD, to see how we can do that. And definitely would like to come up with a package of solutions following these webinars. And I would now also like to thank all the presenters and everyone who has stayed till the very end to be part of this and for the very lively discussion. Thank you, everyone, to my FAO colleagues and to all the ICIMOD colleagues who have supported us in this. And stay safe, stay healthy, and join us in our next webinar. We will send you the link very soon. Bye, everyone.